Have you ever died? Have you ever looked death straight in the face? Vatinotzel nafshi, it saved your life. You belonged to death, but ended up living. I have. I've been in precarious situations a number of times, but there was one time where I actually, like they say, your life goes before your eyes. You realize it's the end of it, and yeah. Anyway, I had one such experience like that. And the story is somewhere here, hidden in this channel at about 51-minute point. If you want to know where it is, ask in the comments. It's quite interesting. It involves very Indiana Jonesy kind of things. I have to occasionally remind myself that I'm already dead, so not to take too seriously this world, because otherwise I'd be exceedingly frustrated by the fact that this world is run by nincompoops, and that my personality was not created such as to be the kind of person who would naturally rise to be the leader of any sort of community, especially because I don't like that. I don't want it. I go out of my way to push people away. I find it to be a burden. So whatever it is, my internal makeup doesn't really fit that. At the same time, it is insane for people to not take seriously the things that I say when I truly have an understanding of the world that is not something to be laughed off. I could give you recent examples, but people are always caught up in the recent. I could explain what I knew about COVID from the very start and how I acted accordingly. What I knew about the recent elections and acted accordingly. And have evidence for it. I made bets. I put money down and won all the time, over and over again. But that's really not important. Today is supposedly August 24th, 2023. August doesn't mean anything. It's named after Octavian, who took the name Augustus, who was the adopted son of Julius Caesar. Who cares? 24th of what? Why is there a month called August in the first place? What is the point of having 12 months? What is it 24 days from? Some arbitrary date that we call August 1st. The 2023 part at least speaks to something. It's the claim that 2023 years ago, Jesus was born. Leaving aside the historicity of that, the point of that always was that we're getting, well, from when people started taking it very seriously in any case, that we're getting towards the millennium or towards the second millennium when he'll return and finally finish, because obviously we're not living in a perfected world. The Eastern approach to these things is not really to take into account that much dates. The Eastern religions, Taoism, Hinduism, Buddhism, have a lot more to say about how to live life in this world, how to have a beneficial life, than any kind of grand scheme of history. Unlike, say, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, they don't have a very, very basic element of their faith that there's going to be some final day of reckoning, some final day of truth, some final day of God, that we're not going somewhere. We didn't come from some specific place, but it's been turtles all the way down. And the truth is that when it comes to your personal life, there is a lot more to be gained from, say, advanced Buddhisms or Taoisms than there is from the monotheistic faiths. Monotheistic faiths are mostly concerned with society as a whole than with the individual. And they have a very definitive place from whence we came and where we're going. According to that, and this is something that I'm telling you which is not going to get very far, and that's why I have to remind myself that I don't really care, I'm already dead anyway, who gives a damn? But I don't care. I'm just telling you. You have a choice whether to care or not. Today is actually, we are in the 7th day of the 6th month of the 51st world. No, I'm sorry, the 71st world. The 71st world after the Exodus from Egypt. In the Bible, which you may have heard of, in the Bible, God has Moses in Egypt tell the Jewish people, "Achodesh hazeh lachem rosh chodashim." This month is the very first of your months, and in the center of this month, in the middle of this month, on the 15th day, you will be leaving Egypt. And the Jews are enjoined to remember Yetzias Mitzrayim, the exile from the exodus from Egypt, the leaving of Egypt, every single day. It is important and necessary and essential that we count our calendar from the exodus from Egypt. It's to remind you that you come from nothing, that you're essentially already dead or stillborn. And this is all extra stuff. Enjoy it. Live it with love and wisdom. But along the way, a lot of things went wrong. Essentially, a world, a civilizational world, is an olam. The end of an olam is a jubilee, right? You might be familiar with the word in English, jubilee, the end of 50 years, a yovel, a time that washes away the world that was before, a general amnesty for all humanity. Everything inherited is returned, everything lost is regained. It's a reset for civilization, the 50th year. Since the leaving of Egypt, 50 years is, basically an olam, an eternity, is your entire life. That's what olam actually is. It's your life. That's your world. But if we're all going to have a restart for society as a whole, a time when we have a year or two where we don't work, where we're not focused on continuing running on that hamster wheel that we're always running on our whole lives, but we stop and we take stock and we meet the other people who are alive in the world together with us today, right now, and then set up a new social contract. That's supposed to happen every 50 years on a certain date. In any case, that 50 years is considered a full civilization, a full olam. There have been 70 olams since the leaving of Egypt. Now we are in the beginning of after 70 olams. I'm very, very tempted to start talking about the number 70 in reference to Egypt and referencing to the leaving of Egypt and 12. If you know your Bible, feel free to look it up. In the Bible, don't look up stuff that's outside of it. Don't interpret the Bible based on others. Just read the Bible pure yourself before you read anything anyone else has to say about it. Straight. Ideally in Hebrew. In any case, but more importantly, according to very, very ancient Jewish sources, there's going to be 6 tkufas, 6 periods of 1,000 years each. Lases v'lavo, for people to leave and come. New people, old people dying, new people coming up, new worlds. And then there's a 7th world where God rules alone, whatever that means, and you don't have this concept of death. The 7,000th year. You might have heard the concept of the world lasting for 6,000 years before it ends, before the Messiah. There's a lot of things wrong with that, but essentially, the Jewish writ talks about 2,000 years of civilizational tohu, 2,000 years of civilizational emptiness, of civilization just trying to figure itself out. Then 2,000 years of Torah, of a law that's actually good for mankind, that works for mankind. And then 2,000 years of Messiah before the year 6,000, from 4,000 to 6,000. To keep this video short, I'm going to end it now by just telling you where we are on that. Where we are on that is the year 5,948, and we are in the 6th month in the 7th day. Well, that's from Egypt, I guess. Otherwise, if we're counting from the beginning of the world, then we are in actually, and this makes more sense because the Jubilee is actually in the 7th month, the 10th day of the 7th month, Yom Kippur. We are actually in the 11th month, the 7th day of the 11th month. And we are about to come on October 14th, 2024, I believe. Shabbos Yom Kippur is going to be the 119th Jubilee. We have now, according to this understanding of Jewish sources, which I'm not swearing to, I'm not interested in having a religious fight with anybody. I'm just letting you know some stuff. We are coming up on our final chance for a fresh start. Our final chance for a time when all the world, we have enough money that none of us, I don't mean that you have enough money or I have enough money. I mean humanity. I mean any particular country, our country, America, but any country has enough that all the people living in that country can have basic services, basic food, shelter, clothing, the basic stuff they need to get by without working for a full year. And that is essential for us to finally have our last olam. It's 120 shonim. Okay, sorry, there's too much I can explain. This is all very deep Jewish stuff, and the people who I can explain things to in the shorthand are people who have a lot of background knowledge on that, but I'm not going to do that now. I'm just going to finish this. That's it. We got, according to this reckoning, we have about 51 years to go. And essentially, if you make it those 51 years, you won't necessarily have to die. Now, this sounds like magic religious stuff. It's not. It's not. It's not at all. Look at the world around you. What more signs do you need? Look at what's available technologically. Look at how we've stalled technologically. Look at how we've gone backwards in terms of our ability to actually get together and work together, our tolerance, all of that. Look how we've gone backwards. Look how much closer we were to all the promises of science fiction 50 years ago, 70 years ago than we are today. And as far as I can tell, it starts with me having a voice. I don't know how much longer I have in this world as a, healthy person who is free. I am someone who lives his life very, very differently than most people. I have no buffer. I try to live as freely as possible, by which I mean unencumbered by self-identities, unencumbered by announced identities, unencumbered by, ideally, YouTube channels and stuff like that as well, by careers, by families, relationships, etc., by names, by affiliations. To be completely free in every moment, recognizing truths that are around me, being open to whatever is right. That kind of life doesn't lead to having a lot of buffers, and it does lead to a lot of dangers. It isn't to save the world that I'm recommending that I be taken, that I be allowed to speak, that people who want to hear me should be allowed to come, that I not be shut down at every moment. I do throw out gratuitous amounts of triggerability. I'll say Yahweh, so that anyone who's Jewish who can't tolerate that, better they leave right now. Anyone who can't tolerate, I've said the N-word enough times, I don't have to say it again, but I say it often enough on this specifically, so that if someone can't tolerate it, let them go away. I say all kinds of wild things. The point is that if someone is incapable of hearing words without their fragile psyche falling into pieces, then let them leave now from continuing to follow. I'm not seeking to get followers, but at the same time, there ought to be an allowance for the world to come and hear and to choose each individual on their own whether this is for them or not. And now there is not that. Okay.